Okay, how many of you know, well, all of you are employees here. Let's see, wait, 2, 3. Okay, how many of you are not HP affiliated employees? Why don't you guys come up closer to the front? That way you're not, it's okay. It's okay, it's nothing personal. I just don't want you to have to be way back there for no good reason. Okay, so when you talk to smaller audiences, it's much easier in some respects. So here's the game plan. You just blurt out anything and just do it like Family Feud. How's that, okay? Okay, so the title's from secure from chip to cloud, and that's important because until they develop have allergies today, so give me a second. They have telepathy that you're not going to get away from using endpoints. So the cloud's great, but you're always going to need an endpoint. And that's really where HP has innovated over the last decade. And specifically, our innovations run around digital services. So what I'd like to do is have you scan that QR code if you want, because that way you can always find me. It's tested safe. Yes, I'm a cybersecurity expert, so that's why I put it on the QR code directly. And I am a distinguished technologist with HP, which gives you the benefit of being able to ask pretty much any question as long as it's not about print. Although I can't answer those questions, I try not to. So I'm going to show you a quick video. Oh, darn it, Leslie. Oh, you're so good to me today. Let's see. Now I have to figure out what I'm doing. Wake up. It's in the dark. Why is it not working today? Okay, it must be working. I don't know why it's not kicking right on. Here we go again. Let's try it again. It's still not loud enough. AI, everybody. AI. Okay, so I'm going to ask a quick test question. How many of you know what AI is actually named for, or what it does? Anybody want to give me one quick guess? I'll take one answer before I get mine. Okay, nobody going to give me one? I'll tell you what it is. It's a baby call for geeks. You'll hear them in the wild and in conference halls, AI, and then they identify to each other and they all get together. So, how many of you know what the Gartner Magic Quadrant is? Okay, you don't. You do. Can you explain it to me, sir?
Ranking by Gartner different vendors and where they fall in four different quadrants.
Excellent. It is the ranking of vendors that are forced into a quadrant to explain their value, and then Gartner punishes you if you do not fit in the quadrant. That is what that is for. So the good news is we're the only hardware vendor who has been selected to be in the Magic Quadrant. And this Magic Quadrant talks about user experience as its primary focus. How are your users functioning within the environment of your business? And that's important because today, one of the things that we're trying to solve for is making sure that individuals are working with the security they have and all the other components in the systems on the endpoints and remaining productive. And you're going to hear a little bit about trying to find the silent killers in your organization, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you walk away from nothing today, walk away with the idea at the bottom, which is find your silent killer in your organization. because those are the ones that are causing the most amount of tickets in your system, or they're the ones that are least satisfied with what's going on in your organization. But it all starts with something very important and why we're here today. The laptop up here on the system has a hardware root of trust. That hardware root of trust is a proprietary chip, and it's not a TPM, it's not the Windows core framework. It's an independent chip that's designed specifically to hold certificates and roots of trust, and we'll get into that in just a second, for the single purpose of making sure that the device that you're using to connect to all of these great services is in fact secure, and that you can actually trust that root in order to conduct all of your business within the system. We do a lot of that with this thing called isolation. Isolation happens before detection. You're not going to hear that from any other vendor. You're going to hear about it in terms of cloud isolation. Sure, I'm going to isolate this up here, I'm going to isolate that over here. But what conditions happen when the machine itself is isolated in a air-gapped situation, for instance, or something else? You still need your security to do its job, and that's what our isolation does. It allows you to have local isolation without the complications of agents and web proxies and these things. Then we have enhanced that chain of events into a discrete radio that we provide on the system. So I'll ask another, I love these surveys with small audiences. How many of you know how to reach a machine that's in the field when it has a blue screen event? Not happening. Exactly, it's not going to happen. Unless you have this. If you buy the additional component that puts a radio within our system, that is tied to the security chip for authentication and attestation, and that allows you to communicate with that system no matter what's happened. So as long as there's any form of power in that machine, a capacitor, a battery, power to the wall, the very first and last things that system will do before it lets the CPU out of lock state is communicate to find out if there are any commands, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But it's your only sideband communication. It allows you to manage machines in the field. Well, so the chip in the middle has all these great features, and the wheel of fortune around it are all the things that we've designed to connect. Now, I'm not going to go into all of them, but I am going to highlight the one in the lower right corner because that's what I just mentioned. It's the trace and protect component. All of the other items are very important. Some of them are self-handling firmware. It's at this point I talk about the fact that HP is still the only company who produces their own firmware in the OEM space. If you did not know that, check it out. And because of that, we have control to do all of this work directly. We don't have to go through a third party, get their stuff, modify their stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So that enables us to open up this world of protection right down to tamper lock, which if the system's opened, it can perform the similar functions. And that's a great way to prevent supply chain attacks. And all these things we can go into, and I'll talk about it at the end. If you work with your partners to get access to our team, my team specifically, we can talk about how this might fit in your organization. But the key here is, and I'm going to skip through this as quick as I can, that find, lock, and erase is the thing I just mentioned, and this is the mechanism to do it. It connects to a global service that we provide. You can attach it to a machine, you can pay for it in advance, or you can add it later piecemeal. And the idea there is that you don't have to worry again about having that machine go walking and get lost, and you can secure erase it. Other components of the same model allow you to set BIOS passwords. How many of you do that today to meet compliance requirements? No hands. There's a reason. It's really hard, right? And it sucks if it goes wrong, right? Yeah, that's exactly the reason. See, if I like small audiences, I can actually see your face and you're smiling a bit. So the reason is that is a problem is because there's no mechanisms. So we've created a mechanism that connects your private key store in your service to lock every single machine in your fleet and do it with a discrete password. And you never have to touch the machine. So those are the great hardware below the OS things. We're going to start going up the stack a little bit. And let's talk about all the great people who say, it's not just us telling you this. This is a really difficult business. Everybody knows it is. But at the end of the day, these silent killers are floating around your organization, and that's what brings these satisfaction numbers now. So if you take a quick gander at that, you'll get slides later, but that's a lot of data, and that's a very low performance rating. If you had this low performance rating at the supermarket, you probably would starve. think of it that way. We're all in the same boat, and we happen to all still fail. There's no watertight boats. We have many tools, we have lots of things, but I'm going to point out this one, which is the compromise between security and productivity in an ever-changing environment. You need to have some form of a root of trust to get this job done. That's why we provide this, and that keeps you secure when you're connecting with external resources. And again, I'm trying to keep these at very high levels. I'm here for the rest of the day. If you have any detailed questions, please feel free. So what's the evolution, what's the innovation? HP started a long time ago, I guess you all know that. And we started with a lot of things, 64 siloed points. I was saying earlier, we control our BIOS. We had 181 versions of BIOS here 4 years ago. We've been on an exquisite path to cut that down. We currently have that cut soon down to 81. So getting closer and closer, but there has to be these differences. It'll never be zero, right? It'll be some number of functional pieces, but then we started to tie them into security. You'll see more security up there. You'll see our cloud print. You'll see connected services. All of these things became discrete applications a couple of years ago, and we decided that still wasn't meeting the customer expectations, so we again innovated into this, what's on the next quadrant, what talks about employee satisfaction in the organization, to drive all of the things, first from observation, then into remediation, and finally closing the loop on getting your employee and workforce up and satisfied. So that is a cloud-based platform. It is composed of these four critical components. Proactive Insights, have any one of you heard, well, I'm gonna start, I always love this one. How many of you knew that HP actually had software? You one of us. Okay, good, somebody admitted it. You knew it. What was the one you knew? You guys look at his nose. You didn't know. Oh, it's okay. It's good though. Thanks for giving me the hand. And then Wolf Security, which is where I've been for the last 4 years, is bringing that to market. And now we've moved into digital workspaces, and I've been blessed with the ability to move into that group. And we have our print services, which everyone lives with forever, and we're integrating that into the system. And it will look like this. All of those four things bundled together in a way that you can actually buy it, so you can buy it per unit or by service or through partner. And then it gives you this lovely device agnostic board. This is not an HP only solution. This works across your organization. Linux, Macs, IoT devices, printers, docking stations. I won't bore you with the list. You'll see it in a boring list when you log in. It's a big, long list of devices. So what you want to do is use this interface through a platform to rationalize all of these tools into an active solution set. And that's one of the big innovations. And we're using AI in a very different way. Certainly we have it in the query side, just like you're used to now. You'll be able to log in, type a question, and you don't have to write a report to figure it out. How many blue screens of death happened last Tuesday and were not reported? Gives you a list. You don't have to go do anything else. But we do have analytics in here, and that helps build up what we're doing. This all rolls up into a score that allows you to do two very important things. One, understand your environment. Two, sell it to your boss so he understands what the utilization is. Because a lot of people, that's the question. How much software are we using? Are we using it to potential? How are the machines performing with that software? Those questions are hard to ask. And this observability allows you to do it. And we'll talk a little bit about that more when I get to the live demonstration. Okay, so you're not alone. Using this platform actually leverages a community. It does it because depending on how you're configured, certainly if you're in the military and you're in an exquisitely, air-gapped environment, it's N of one. It's your environment, it's your population, it's your data from that population. If you step up a little bit into having a large corporation and you're using this information, you can connect that to our anonymized back-end resource data that we even use for our purposes. And that allows you to have a deeper, richer sense of exactly what's happening in the organization and how you might compare with that organization in terms of numbers. And then lastly, if you're one of our independent products, and you can buy those independently on individual machines or groups of 10, as an example, through your partner, you'll be able to leverage the same amount of data because that goes into a pool and it's anonymized. We don't even know what's in there specifically. But the idea is that you can then leverage about, how many machines are having blue screens of death against how many people have blue screens of death. So you can start seeing how you perform in the market relative to these issues. So our goal is pretty straightforward. It's to transform the digital experience. It's to reduce your spend, because every time you get, kill a silent killer, you're killing one bad advocate in your business. I can't tell you how many times I've gone through an accounting department and I ask everybody, how many of you are having problems? And no one says a word except for one person in the corner. They go, I have it all the time. And I say, okay, great, what problems are you having? They show me and I go, how many tickets do you file? Oh, I never file tickets. I just yell at everybody in the room and talk about it. Doesn't help. That's not what you want. And then ultimately, this is the money loop, right? We're always trying to make our systems more efficient. So I put my code up again. If I've impressed you at all in the first 15 minutes, try to use that. But if you work with your partner or contact one of the salespeople that you have, you'll be able to leverage access to my department, where we provide, and we're a new department, we're customer success engineering. You'll see behind my name is a thing called CSE. And the purpose of that is to allow you guys to understand that HP is in this for real. We come to you through Zoom or through some online meeting in support of your partner. And the purpose of that is straightforward. It's to understand what your environment is and give you the best possible recommendation of the tools you need from us to do the job. Because there are a lot of tools you may not need or want. I'll give you a key example. If you buy some of our AV product that's in our Wolf Pro security suite, it's probably great for you. But if you're a small to large enterprise and you start to decide that really we have to, through policy, use Defender, or we need to use Bitdefender, or we need to use Symantec, well, you want to be able to turn off components, and you want to do it at an enterprise level or a broader level. Maybe you're a small company, but your service provider can help you and tune these things up so each one of your machines can respond correctly to the details that you want, and do it through policy so you don't have to fight the battle of doing it yourself. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of one of these opportunities, because our team loves to get on Zoom calls and talk about it. Now let me pull up the actual product. This is in vaporware, this is real. And the benefit of it being real is that my mouse will stop working. Let's see, okay, so if we go to devices, and we go to PCs, you'll see we break down. Did it go out again? Wow, cool. That's weird. Yeah. I shouldn't be doing that. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna get to talk about new computers and why you shouldn't take them on the road for first runs. Well, that's really not great. Why is this not? Wow, it's really not. I can't get my screen to stop doing it today. All right, so that's going to be weird. Okay, so let me put this back. I will. I can't get the display. Hello. No, my function key is not letting me switch out to. Whoop. Oop. Want to get a shot? I love it. Hardware, category. If you haven't heard him speak, he's fantastic. I don't know why that thing is supposed to work on the, thank you. Why is the button not working? Oh, is that you? All right, good, thanks. That's why we have a team and a deep bench of people to work with you, so thank you very much. Here you see the devices. You'll notice here that we have a number of different categories. This is by and far not, because this is going to go general release at the end of the month. So you're all getting a little bit of a preview of the future innovation that HP is bringing to the table. Specifically, you'll see virtual machines, telephones, and endpoints. What does that mean? Well, how many of you know we bought Polycom? Okay, HP people, don't. It messes up my count. Okay, so yes, we have bought Poly. That's really excellent for a number of reasons. One of them is Poly can now provide us information about how that room is actually providing, specifically when it talks about what is actually happening in that room in relationship to the PCs, because now as we move forward, this machine has Polycom built into it, and the idea is that when this machine enters a Polycom room, it identifies itself, and then anytime that you're speaking in the room, instead of relying on the bowling alley camera at the end of the hall to focus in on you, it'll use your camera and your microphone and zoom right in on you. So when you're talking, it looks like a personal one-to-one relationship to the conference that you're having. The benefit there is that you have to understand how it's performing. Where's the breakdown? Is it one PC that's just too slow or causing a bad performance angle? Is it trying to take control of the room? Any one of these things can be found out through here because you'll get that in your dashboard. Yeah, there you go. All right, so if you click on any one of these links, and you'll see specific machines, but let's assume for a second that I'm just trying to get a sense of what's going on in my network from a security perspective. Not only can I drill down into one of these particular items, this probably won't be what I want. Oh, so this is a great one. Yeah, it's a great one. You can see all of the different ways and all the different parts of the system, and this leads us to something very important. Now, once you see something, what's the next logical thing you want to do, right? You want to do something with it. You may want to push a script out to fix it. For instance, I don't have BitLocker installed on a certain amount of machines. I'm pretty sure of that. And by the way, this is a demonstration company, if anybody's wondering. So we have different companies I can log into and show you different combinations of things. But if I go into analytics, and I go down here to, let's do blue screen errors. So this is one important issue that I wanted to raise, because how many of you were familiar with the CrowdStrike event? Right, okay, see now I get unanimity. Now everybody's like, yeah. So we saw that happening, and that was when this software was in alpha state. And it allowed us to see that the number one driver that was causing the crashes, a process, was not correlated with anything else. It was just one driver, and we're starting to see a huge amount of machines go offline very, very early. So when we had, going back to the security chip below the OS, machines that were identified on that list that were starting to have problems, it was very easy for us to send out a general pulse, we'll talk about those in a minute, and tell those machines and the operators of those machines that there's an incident going on. Please quickly hit F11 and unfortunately restore your machine. That got me up and running in 45 minutes. Now that's important because a lot of times with blue screens of death, the one thing we can't do is correlate what the cause was. We can see the event. Maybe we might even use this fancy tool I just talked about to recover it at, outside the office and all the wire. But now I still don't really understand why it happened. In fact, many, many times that's the problem with silent killers in your organization. They've gotten so used to having a certain problem on their machine that they're just keep living with the problem. So when they're working on a daily basis, they're saying, well, I'm working within my context. But then they get surveyed by your boss, and they go, no, this is totally horrible. I don't know why I'm living with this. When the boss comes back to you, what are your choices? Let me go talk to them. Let me see what I can find. More importantly, I can't understand actually what's happening to them. And when I look into this analytics, I can do not just this kind of report, but I can go into other reports. In this case, I'm going to really risk something crazy, because we all know we should never do this on demos. I'm going to click on one of our LLM models. It's going to go through a huge database because there's millions of devices. It's going to calculate. I love this. I love the words we chose. Transforming your data into intelligence. Turns out we have 2 notebooks and 3 big data set. I got to get my other account loaded up here. And you notice here it's not linkable. What happens in the general release section is that we're going to have these all linkable and dynamic. So you go from asking a basic question, getting results, and then drilling into those results, which is faster. But if you go over here to, I want to find application experience. The money is Maybe it's the fact that one machine has a certain performance issue. We had a customer come in one time and say, recently, this is a problem. I'm not happy with my machine, it's not quick enough. And then we looked at their information, we said, gee, you know, funny enough, you're using this thing and it's always down here. It's always under 10%. What's going on? Like, why do you think you need more? Like, it's just too slow. It just doesn't help me with my job. So when we look back more detail on what apps are being used and most frequently used, it turns out they're an AutoCAD user. Everybody laughs, everybody knows the pain of AutoCAD. But what was more interesting is it was the memory allocation they had in the machine. So instead of getting a refresh machine and going through the hassle of trying to figure out what that machine would be, we simply upgraded their memory in that machine and their problems disappeared. So we can correlate specific actions with specific things, and then if we want to go farther, we've had a number of customers who have realized ROI on the fact that they bought bulk licenses for a particular application pack that they thought would be good for a department, and they installed it in the department, and after utilization analysis, they found out that only about 35% of the department was actually using the software ever. So that's the problem with departments. That's why Microsoft has come up with personas. And we all operate by personas now. How many of you operate by personas? Yeah, this is the beauty of my job. So I am going to be employed for a long time talking about personas and how they relate to user experience. So when you have a persona, you can say, I want to define within personas, and you can do all of that with this platform. You can specify parameters. For instance, you can set weights and tolerances to each one of these metrics that roll up to your satisfaction survey. But more importantly, I very well may want to come in and say, I want a certain range of interest around a particular user that is in that same group I just talked about, because they're in the artistic graphics design department. But the persona within that department, that has a very different user profile, because it turns out I have 2 administrators in that department that administer things for the rest of the department. So why should they have AutoCAD to start with? and oh, by the way, it's really not helping them to get assigned the wrong machine also. They might need an AI PC. So get an AI PC. Okay, well, that didn't go over well. Okay, so I got 2 minutes left. Ask me any questions. Or I'm going to bore you for 2 more minutes. Because you know the door's closed, right? Okay, no. If you, what's that? No, your question. Do it. Do it. Let me free. Make me free. Let me go. No. Here's some other stuff down here, and again, I'm going to emphasize because it's important. What do you see here? This is not an HP only solution. Does it get better when it's on HP? Yes. Why? Okay. Let's assume for a second that I have a rash of bad hard drives. Anybody ever had that problem? Maybe during COVID? Yeah. Okay, so what I can do with this platform is I can see that a lot of machines are failing within this category. 122 PCs, different vendors, and I can see their smart data. I can see the data that's provided by the manufacturer through the standard called SMART that is on every hard drive produced in the world today. If you've ever used that data, you know it's rather light. So when you use this system with smart data, it gives you very important information, and we have algorithms that are designed to work to understand and rationalize that for you in the context of your fleet. But if you have an HP product, you have more sensors and more things that we've designed intentionally into those hard drives to do things like measure bloat, gas, other things about cycle time on the spindle, things that we absolutely designed into that drive set and we have specified with our drive manufacturers. In fact, we're in this process right now to do the same thing with certificate of erasure. Today we can do certificate of erasure. In fact, we have one machine in the market today that if you absolutely must have it for insurable reasons or security reasons, you can specify that machine to be erased and you receive a certificate from that machine. We'd love to do that across all our machines. What do you think the big limit there is? Drive manufacturer compliance. If we specified that and used it on every machine out there, we would not have enough vendors to provide the solution. So we're waiting about a year to make sure that happens. And then everyone will have it. But that's the power of having an analytics system like this, that you can go through here, understand these mechanisms in your group of users, get the problems before they happen, and ultimately kill the silent killers. So please kill the silent killers. That's the end of my time. You've been a great audience.